We are receiving transmission. I repeat, we are receiving transmission. NeoStarling is about to go live. NeoStarling is going live. 3, 2, 1.
Hello everybody, how's it going? It's your boy NeoStarling, and I am here with another edition of Fitness Cross Video Games podcast. Now, I noticed that the last couple of video game podcasts that I did weren't really pertaining much to video games, so it's something that I kind of want to change. It was a lot about fitness, and that's what I was primarily focused on, but I do have something that I wanted to talk about. Now, I often find that when you're trying to talk about a podcast and you want to have a specific topic, it can be very difficult to come up with one. So what I did was I got myself a muse and I found something that I wanted to talk about. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I want to talk about places, right? Places. What do they mean to you? What is a special place to you? What is a place that you feel holds value to you? Is it something that's like latitude/longitude, which would be something more on the physical aspect, like an actual place? Or is it something that's psychological, something that's in your head, something that brings back a particular memory, something that you feel that when you think of brings you ease or makes you feel uneasy, right? Now, with that said, I want to talk about Silent Hill 2, because I feel that Silent Hill 2 is actually very relevant to what I want to talk about. And I want to mix this in with this topic because I noticed throughout the entire time that I played this game, I never really took the time to see what was going on outside of the lore of the game itself and what it brought. I wanted to sort of mix it into like your own personal life and feel like this could be something that you might want to listen to. This could be something that you feel will resonate with you in a way that you didn't really necessarily imagine it would have before. Right now, I spoke in a previous podcast about how video games impacted my life, but I never spoke about Silent Hill 2. Right now, I want to preface this by giving you a little background of the game itself so that when I talk about places, it'll make a little more sense to you. Right. So the main character of the game, James Sunderland, he's the protagonist of this particular series. Well, of this game in specific. He gets a letter from his wife and she tells him that she's in Silent Hill at their special place. Now, mind you, I'm going to spoil the game for you right now. It's been years since it came out. So if you haven't played it yet, it's not my fault. Stop this video, play the game, come back, right? Welcome back. So his wife is dead. She's been dead for over 3 years already, but he gets a letter stating that she's in Silent Hill. So all logic and reason kind of just fly out the window, and he tells himself, no, I'm going to go to Silent Hill because I just got a letter from my wife. But that can't be because my wife is dead. How is this even possible? You're thinking to yourself. Well, that's the purpose of psychological horror, right? It kind of does that to you. So he goes there just off this preconceived notion that she might still be alive. And she is at their special place. Now, this is actually a physical place rather than it being something that's, inside of your head. So throughout the game, James goes and he fights all these monsters. He meets all these people that are in this town in an effort to find out what's going on with his wife. He encounters several characters along his journey, including Angela, Eddie, Maria, and Laura. Now, Maria's an interesting one. We're going to talk about her in a second. But he goes to this special place, right? Silent Hills, where they went on vacation, so it was something special to them. Throughout his journey, you're going to find that things aren't what they seem. This town is pretty much a physical manifestation, or rather a psychological manifestation of everything that's going on in your head. Your worst nightmares, the horrible things that you've done in the past. This town is a way of sort of punishing you, right? Now, he doesn't know this in the beginning. He's just going there to look for his wife. Every character that's there is there for a specific reason. Throughout his journey, he encounters Angela, which is the first character that he meets. He meets her at a graveyard and he's asking her for directions. She gives it to him. Now, let's just forget about the fact that they met at a graveyard, which is actually interesting because it pertains to her as well. That's sort of a special place to her. Every time he meets one of these characters, he meets them in a way that will lead you to believe that the location in which they're meeting has something to do specifically with who they are as a human being, what they've done. And, he journeys throughout the game looking for her. He can't find her. I want you to know this right now. He knows that she's dead. He knows. because he encounters Angela in this apartment complex at one point. She's holding a knife, contemplating suicide. Now at this point, James is like, wait a second, don't do this. There's more to life than this. Like there's always another way. There's always a reason to live. So he manages to convince her to give him the knife, which she does. She obliges, rather in a hesitant manner, but she gives it to him anyway. Now, not knowing anything about her past yet at this moment, you'd be surprised that she'd even given the knife to begin with. But she gives it to him, and he shows her a photo of his wife, and she says, I'm sorry, I've never seen her before. And then he goes, it's okay. She's dead anyway. Now at this point, she's confused. She's like, something's a little bit off about this guy. He's not quite there in the head. And he replies by telling her, I'm not crazy. At least I don't think I am. Now granted, what's happening here is that all logic and reasoning are sort of leaving him, because he's so infatuated with the fact that his wife might still be alive that he's willing to undergo this odyssey in order to find her, which is what he does, and which is what every other character in the game does for that matter as well, just in their own unique way. But I want to focus more on James than anybody else. Now, I found it interesting that throughout the whole game, all of the enemies that you encounter are all female. They are essentially a manifestation of James's sexual desires, of his sexual frustrations, because towards the end, when his wife was dying, she was hospitalized, she was dying of a disease, and he wasn't able to have sex with her. So as a result, a lot of the monsters that he's seeing, they're highly sexualized. Now, granted, they're gross sexualizations of women, but they're sexualizations nonetheless, right? And when he encounters Maria, it's interesting because she's not real. I'm going to tell you this right now. She is also a manifestation of how James viewed his wife, because she looks exactly like his wife. She speaks like her. She looks like her. The only difference is that her hair and her clothes are different, which he does mention to her. And they never outwardly say that she's not real, but you kind of know she isn't, because it's not possible for her to be real at this point. So he ends up really just going through this journey again once more, trying to find this special place that she speaks of. Now, this all culminates by him going to the hotel where they spend their vacation, because they were at a resort. Mind you, Silent Hill was a resort town, and there's some documents that you find throughout the game that lead you to believe that. So that's actually the case. So what is a special place to you? You know, I'm going to go back to you, the audience member, the person listening to this, rather than the game itself. For me, a special place can be a physical location, or it can be something mental. For example, when I was a kid and I was going through hard times, I noticed that I retreated into video games a lot, particular Final Fantasy, because it was this brand new world where anything was possible. You were able to have choices in what you did. And it was really exciting because at that time, when I was a kid and I was still learning how to read, there was plenty of dialogue. So I was giving myself an education while I was learning how to play this game. And because of that, I feel that I learned a lot throughout that course of time. Now, when things were going bad for me as a kid, when I thought nothing was going to get better, this really made me feel a lot better. So because of that, that's always going to be a special place in my own head. As an adult, on the other hand, I go to the UFC gym and I go to a regular gym as well. I go to 3 gyms. Don't think I'm crazy. One of the gyms is free. And I also tend to walk home from work, which is about a 5-mile walk, which is great exercise. I get some sunlight. And in general, I have time to think and be with my own thoughts if I'm not listening to headphones, which I usually am. But that's neither here nor there. Anyway, the gym represents a physical place that I can go to that allows me to work out, sweat, pick up heavy things and put them down, and overall feel better. When I get home, I take a shower, get something to eat, I feel amazing. Feel like $1 million once again. So no matter what's happening in my life, I know that I can always go to the gym and work out, at the very least while I'm still young. And there's a lot of places that are special to us. You know, again, whether you're meditating and you go into this trance-like state where you're sort of able to go into whatever world you want to go into in your own head, or maybe you've learned how to like lucid dream and you can create your own reality, or again, whether it be a physical location. You know, maybe you went to like the Statue of Liberty when you were a kid with your dad or your mom, or both of them together. So anytime you go there now as an adult, you always have that memory of a time when you were younger, right? So James ends up finding out towards the end that he ended up killing his wife when he found a cassette tape that showed him everything, basically. But mind you, he already knew this. He already knew that he murdered her. But because he wanted to believe so badly that she was still alive, this entire world in this one town manifested around his own psyche. And it basically told him, no, keep trying a little harder. There's a lesson you need to learn while you're here, while you're going through your reverse hero's journey in this case. Because I wouldn't really call it a hero's journey in particular, because he's not really a good guy. He's not really a bad guy either, for that matter. He's a human being. And I think that's what it boils down to, because us as human beings, we all make mistakes, whether we did something horrific or whether it was something minor or somewhere in between. You know, we all make mistakes. And I think that this game was a good representation of what can happen to a human being when they're faced with a seemingly impossible situation, right? So this was a special place for James. Silent Hill was his special place, along with his wife. Now I ask you this question. If Silent Hill were to beckon you, if it summoned you to go into its town, what would you see? Let's pretend for a second that you're a regular human being that didn't kill anyone, but you might have done something equally as horrible in your own mind, right? And this town called you because you did something horrible. What would you see? How would your world manifest around you? What type of monsters would you see, and what type of representation would those monsters have based off of what you did? Right? I've always found that very interesting, because I always told myself, you know, I'm not a perfect person. I would like to think that for the most part I've done good in my life, but again, we're not angels. None of us are innocent. So we've all done things that we're not necessarily proud of. So how would the town manifest in my own head? What type of enemies would I encounter? Who would be the main antagonist that I'd have to face in order to conquer this journey, this odyssey that I would be on? And I think that's interesting, because I'll give you a few examples, right? So Angela, she sees the world on fire because apparently when she was younger, she was molested or raped by her mother. I mean, not her mother, her father and her brother. So she's looking for her mom in this town. Now, she sees the world on fire because everything is just hell to her. Like, that's how she felt. So when James kind of slips into her Silent Hill, he sees everything in an inferno. And she says, I always see things this way. Now, Eddie's Silent Hill, because he was a fat dude that was made fun of a lot, and he went through his own, like, you know, personal pain as well that led him to this town. I won't get too deep into his story, but I will tell you how he views the town. He views it as cold, almost like a blast chiller with like huge chunks of meat just like hanging from hooks. And because everything was centered about his weight and being made fun of, that's how he kind of views the world. So how would you view it? You know, what type of hell would manifest based off of the experiences that you had in this town? I find that interesting, and I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments. We can actually continue this thread in the comments below if you guys want to. Feel free to sort of share how you might see this town based off of your own experiences. And what is your special place? What place brings you joy or brings you sorrow, or somewhere in the middle, right? Because there's a lot of gray areas in our lives. We live in just different shades of gray. I think that's kind of the world that most people live in. Nobody lives in a complete paradise, which I thought was interesting, because the little girl that you encountered through the game, the only young little kid in the game, which is Laura, she sees the town as normal. There's nothing wrong in that town. She doesn't see any monsters, but that's because she's young and she's innocent, and she hasn't done anything bad enough outside of like messing with James. She hasn't done anything horrible enough for her to really be led into a place of despair and horror, right? And Maria isn't even real. She is a physical manifestation of James's wife, and this is made apparent based off of every time you encounter another character, she's suddenly not feeling good. She has headaches, or she has a stomach ache, or something's wrong with her that won't allow her to exist in the same place where you meet these other people. Because she is a physical manifestation of his wife, if they were to see it, your suspension of disbelief will be broken, and now you would wonder, hey, is this lady even real, or is he just really insane, right? So I thought that was an interesting topic to talk about. Now, this is sort of becoming the norm for me, but this is actually my second recording of this video, because this time it wasn't the phantom power like it was in the last video, but there was a switch on my mic that for some reason was switched off in the Streamlabs OBS program that I'm utilizing to do this podcast. And I was really upset because, again, I felt that my first talk was good. I always feel like I naturally come across as a better speaker the first time around. And when I try to sort of reiterate my points, I either missed something or something got omitted that I felt wasn't necessary. But I always feel that like your first draft can often be your most genuine. And in this case, I'm hoping that this one will be just as good. So anyway, with that said, feel free to let me know what your own personal place, what your place of happiness or sorrow is. And I'd love to hear it. I would definitely love to hear it. But with that said, thank you so much, everybody, for humoring me and listening to my crazy ramblings. I have my second series that I'm also working on, which is Slice of Life with NeoStarling, where I go into like more introspection and just like deeper philosophical talks that I know to the best of my ability at the very least. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. You guys are all amazing people, and don't ever, ever let anyone tell you different. Signing off.